Okay, it's the appointed hour, so we'll start this July meeting of the Sumner County Board of Education. If all would rise, I'll call on Will Duncan to lead us in our invocation and pledge.
May we bow, please. Gracious God, our Father, the maker and the creator of heaven and earth, tonight we're so grateful and we're so thankful that you have allowed us once again, Heavenly Father, to bow before your footstool of mercy and come humbly before your throne of grace. We come tonight because we realize, Heavenly Father, that you are our source of strength and you are our source of help. We need thee, Heavenly Father, in our life every minute, every second of the day. We thank you again as we come for lengthening out the brick-and threads of our unworthy lives and bedding our golden moments to linger on a while longer the side of eternity. You didn't have to let us get up this morning, but you enabled us to open our eyes and touch us with a finger of love to see another brand new day. And as we come tonight, we pray for those who have been devastated by tragedy, those who are mourning, Heavenly Father, for the loss of their loved ones, and those who are sick on their bed of affliction. We pray for our torn and disturbed and evil world that we live in. We know that we're close to time because your word said in your Bible that it is fulfilling itself, and we're almost, Heavenly Father, to the book of Revelation. We thank you tonight as we come for all of those who are assembled here tonight in disappointed places, disappointed time, that we come to transact business for our school system, for the upholding and the betterment of humanity and the children in which we serve in our future generation. We know that some of them are disturbed, and we know that we're living in a cruel world. But we thank you, Heavenly Father, we know that you still live, and we ask you tonight that you would give us wisdom and teach us how to use the knowledge, Heavenly Father, that we have gained in this world. As we come tonight, let us transact business in faithfulness and in truth. Because you said in your holy and divine word, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And as we leave this place tonight, we pray, Heavenly Father, you would dismiss us from this place. But we pray that you won't dismiss us from your holy and your divine presence. Lead us back to our many homes, Heavenly Father, that we are left, and keep our families safe as we go. These blessings we ask in Jesus' name, and for his sake we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. Mr. Dreamus, have you taken the roll?
Mr. Chairman, all members are present. 6 votes necessary for affirmative action by the board.
Thank you, sir. Without objection, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Mr. Duncan, Ms. Bradley seconds. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Consent agenda is approved. Are there any changes, additions, modifications to the regular agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the regular agenda. Mr. Stamps, seconded by Mr. Long. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We have an agenda. Okay. If there are no additions or corrections to the minutes of the regular meeting or the special call meeting, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of both those meetings. Thank you, Ms. Bradley. Mr. Gregory seconds. All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Okay, minutes are approved. Next, recognition of delegations. First on the agenda is the SCEA President, Ms. Walker. Welcome, Ms. Walker.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sharon Walker, and as the president of the Sumner County Education Association, I am truly honored to speak to you on behalf of Sumner County's teachers. As a 1975 graduate of Gallatin High School, I not only have the good fortune of teaching in this system, but I'm also a product of many wonderful, inspiring, and dedicated teachers here in Sumner County. Just as my parents before me, one of the biggest reasons why my husband and I relocated our family back to this area 14 years ago was so that our children could attend Sumner County schools. Having worked in 3 other school systems, I must say that the level of dedication by teachers in Sumner County far exceeds that of any I've seen. These professionals will stay day after day for hours working in their classrooms, preparing lessons, preparing special activities, painting, yes, I mean painting the classroom walls, fundraising, providing an extra activity for kids such as chorus or hockey, meeting with parents, meeting with teachers, attending school-related functions, and doing whatever it takes, all for absolutely no extra pay. If you happen to have a family member who is a teacher, you know that these same teachers always manage to bring home a never-ending supply of papers to grade. Sumner County's teachers have hearts of gold. I have observed this personally. They help students in need by providing material support in the form of food, clothing, rent money, shoes, socks, Christmas presents, etc. If a child is sick or loses a loved one, our teachers are there providing much needed emotional support. Finally, Sumner's teachers provide many classroom materials. They provide incentives and books with money from their own pockets, or they go begging for donations from family, friends, and businesses. A good number of them have spent the extra effort and money to return to school and earn advanced degrees to better prepare themselves to meet the many challenges they face every day in their classrooms. Research shows that the classroom teacher is the single most important factor affecting student achievement. Sumner County's teachers really care about their students, and they demonstrate that on a daily basis. With over 12 million new state dollars coming into Sumner County, the Sumner County Education Association believes that the time has come for the Sumner County Board of Education to demonstrate to these dedicated professionals that they are valued and appreciated. It is our understanding that it will cost about $500,000 additional dollars to assure a 5% raise for all certificated employees, a drop in the bucket compared to the $12 million in new revenue. You have before you the perfect opportunity to begin to make the compensation for teachers in this county competitive among other surrounding school systems. The SCA Executive Board has met and voted unanimously to accept a 5% raise above the 06-07 salary should it be formally offered. We strongly urge the school board to also unanimously support this 5% raise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. I thought that we were going to be graced with the presence of Mayor Graves, but it appears that Ms.
Yes, she's in a meeting, city council, she'll be on when that meeting adjourns, she'll be here, and we'll just add her on if we could when she arrives.
Very good. Are there others in attendance this evening that would speak on an agenda item? There apparently being no one else interested in speaking, I'll declare this hearing of the delegations to be closed until, of course, Mayor Graves appears. Matters involving council. Counselor, what's on the agenda tonight?
Well, we don't need an executive session, but there are a couple of matters I'd like to discuss. I sent each one of you a copy of the standard amendments to the building contract that this school system has used for many, many years. And I sent a copy to Hart, Freeland, and Roberts and asking that if anything in that bothered them to let me know. And I did not hear back, and I heard indirectly at least that they weren't the least bit worried about those conditions. So as far as I know, that's all on track. But the next item, this amendment to TCA 49203, just to give you a little background on that, a number of years ago, one of our auditors, Ms. Nichols, who's now with the county, raised an issue about whether or not one of the elementary schools in Portland could have a private Spanish tutor paid by the parent-teachers organization in light of the code section that said that no school property could be used for private profit. And there was a subsection of 203.10 that, 203, TCA 49203, that applied only to 3 counties. It applied to Sumner County, applied to Knox County, and Blount County. I'm not sure I pronounced that one correct, but at any rate, it said that school property couldn't be used for private profit. Every other school system in the state came under this 10A that said public school buildings and property may not be used for private benefit. Well, that is a very encompassing statement. And when we proposed that that subsection that applied only to those 3 counties be repealed, our proposed amendment passed the Senate, but in the House Education Committee, I don't know exactly what all was going on, but I gathered politics as usual down there, and it caused quite a bit of stir. Particularly, the chairman said that he recognized something ought to be done, but he thought that really that the 3 counties that were treated differently ought to be lumped in with everybody else, which we wanted to avoid, and that then the whole problem should be addressed. And so the House refused to pass the amendment that we suggested and lumped us in with everybody else. Then last fall, this chairman of the Education Committee sent our chairman, I believe, or maybe our director, I don't remember which one, a letter saying that he recognized that there was a problem and it would be addressed. And so we didn't, in this last legislative session, didn't say anything about this code section. This is one of those code sections that probably everybody in the state ignores, at least this little sentence about private benefit or private profit, because when you put a little ad on the outfield fence at the baseball field and get a $200 contribution, is that for benefit of the plumbing company or not? And it probably is, the different people that advertise that way. And in the House hearing, the representative from the State Department of Education clearly said, you know, sure, it's private benefit. This statute makes it illegal. It shouldn't happen. But we're not going to go out chasing anybody down that does it. Well, when you've got a statute like this that apparently virtually every school system in the state is violating in some minor way or another, and some in a major way, it really ought to be just changed. The state shouldn't have laws that they don't enforce and that nobody pays attention to. And I believe if people understand what it says down there, that they will do something about it, particularly if we have a real bipartisan effort by our legislative delegation to change it. Now, the reason I drafted the proposed amendment in the manner I did, and it could be drafted many, many different ways, but I discussed this with several members of the House and several senators, and the first thing that came up after you say the portion that says public school buildings and property may not be used for private benefit, well, they were trying to think about what regulations should be put on school systems about using public property. And I really think that delegating you complete authority is warranted when they've already delegated complete authority to every public charter city in the state. Westmoreland has far more power to manage property than the school board does. And so to avoid arguing about what the extent of the limitations ought to be in this draft that I came up with, and again, it could have been done 100 different ways, but I just said that all school systems will have the same power that's already been granted to all public charter cities. And I named the code section where it had been done, thinking that way you might could bypass the argument about what should we create here to replace the part that's taken out. Now, what I would suggest would be appropriate is that authorize the director or the chairman of both, or any one of you or committee of you to just take this up with our legislative delegation and see if that it can't be resolved for the whole school system. The School Board Association deals with all sorts of legislation, and certainly their help would be instrumental because they have a full-time lobbyist, I think, and could help guide this through. So the main reason I wanted to have it on the agenda tonight is they may take some action about their legislative agenda in their meeting later on this week. I don't know that they will, but if they did, if they started to formulate their legislative policy for next year, it would be nice if this was on their list, or at least that they were aware of it. So if you as a collectively see fit, I would suggest that we pass something just authorizing negotiation with our legislative delegation to introduce legislation to modify this in this way or any other way that'll get through, that will get rid of the problem.
Jim, thanks. I remember very well the discussions that we had on this subject earlier in the year, and appreciate the depth into which you have looked into this issue. When you communicated with us earlier, most recently, about the fact that this was supposed to have been addressed in this last legislative session but was not, I contacted our delegation at that point because we'd received written assurances that it would have been taken up. And they did have quite a bit on their plate at the last legislative session, which I think all of us will agree inured to our benefit tremendously, and they overlooked this issue in the process of working on BEP 20. I have heard back from the delegation that it was an oversight. They have checked again with the chairman of the Education Committee. He apologized, felt it just got overlooked in the shuffle to get everything done. And I recall also a suggestion by Mr. Stamps that this issue probably would be best addressed collectively by the Tennessee School Board Association. So I think we've got two really good approaches now. The TSBA, one, and our delegation has already taken it upon themselves to make sure that it gets back on the agenda. And I'm not really sure that there's anything the director or I or any other committee at this point needs to do, but I'd be open to any suggestions any of you have at this point. I think, based on the assurances I've gotten from our delegation, that it will be pursued in this next legislative session. But if any of you have anything you'd like to share on this issue, I'd be delighted to hear from you.
I would suggest you pass something just saying that officially that you're for a modification of the statute, either in this manner or any other manner that solves the problem.
Any observations by anyone on the board?
I don't have a problem with that. I know since 1985 that I've wrestled with this, and I probably mentioned it before, but one of the things that any school board I represented turned their back to was you can't have piano lessons after school in a school if the teacher is putting the money in their pocket. And it's a great place to give a piano lesson before kids go home, et cetera. So I would move that this board support a modification of that statute number, and I don't remember what it is. (49.2.20.203.10A). And there are lots of things that can take place inside of school buildings by private individuals for the benefit of the students after hours, for which they would want some degree of compensation that they can't do. And there ought to be, so I would move that we support that. That's the extent of the motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Mr. Stamps seconds. Is there discussion on this? Further discussion? We ready to vote? Yes, Randy?
I do want to make clear that somehow we let TSBA know that really, I think it's their responsibility. I think it'd be fine if our legislators are the sponsors of it, but as someone pointed out, they have a lobbyist, and this is what they're supposed to do, is help us in certain matters like this. So I would just hope that we convey it to them, our action tonight, so they can move forward with it.
Thank you, Mr. Stamps. Any other discussion? We ready to vote? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Anything else, Counselor? Okay, thank you very much. Next, comments from board members. Anyone got anything on their mind they'd like to share? Mr. Wheeler?
I guess the meeting that Jim was referring to, the TSBA Summer Law Institute is Friday and Saturday, half a day Saturday up in Gatlinburg. And I've been going to that thing for a long time. It's well worth your time to go. I don't know if anybody else is going, but if you're not, I would suggest that you try to make some plans to go next year, because there are various sessions on various legal issues, but one of the most important is a review of what is hot off the press legislatively. And it's well organized, and they've got authoritative speakers, despite the fact that it's in Gatlinburg.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Any other board member comments at this point? There apparently being none, I'd like to make just a couple of quick comments. Had an opportunity to attend a very short county commission meeting last night, probably the shortest I've ever attended, and one of the most beneficial in terms of Sumner County school system. They unanimously approved our recommendation of architectural fees. They unanimously approved the request for additional funding for 4 new classrooms at Indian Lake Elementary. They unanimously approved the budgets that we approved last week, or at a recent meeting anyway. So it's too bad we didn't have some other things on the agenda last night, since they were in a mood to unanimously approve everything we submitted. But one of the highlights of the meeting last night was recognition of the faculty and administration at Merrill Hyde Magnet School for being named the #1 elementary school and the #1 middle school in Middle Tennessee by Nashville Business Journal, based on the criteria used by that publication for analysis. And Ms. Schreiner gratefully accepted the resolution of the county commission, and she commented on some information she had received, I think just yesterday, from the Air Force Academy. As you all will recall, that small initial graduating class from Merrill Hyde Magnet School, I think there were 58 graduates, had 3 military academy appointments in one small class. We'd be hard pressed to have 3 countywide in a year, and they had 3 in one class. Mr. Wong, who received an appointment to the Air Force Academy, distinguished himself. He was one of the top 10 students at Merrill Hyde. He was a starter on the basketball team. I watched him play. He was on the tennis team. He scored #1 on the math test that was applied to each of the 1,300 new students at the Air Force Academy. He scored the highest. So That was a remarkable accomplishment for Mr. Wong. That is just additional recognition of the fine job being done, not only at Merrill Hyde Magnet School, but the entire county. And since we have two members of the Merrill Hyde administration here with us tonight, I think it'd be appropriate if we gave applause for that accomplishment. Okay. Anything else under this item on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to the recommendation from the Sumner County Athletic Committee. And I'll call on Chairman Long. Give us the full report, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The athletic committee met a week or so ago. It was a called meeting at the request of some of the middle school principals, and the committee voted unanimously to approve increasing ticket prices for football and basketball by $1. And that would raise the price, I believe, from $3 to $4 for admission into a game. The purpose of the increase is to assist each of the middle schools in compensating their coaches and various people it takes to keep those athletic events going. They've been losing money for quite some time and just felt this increase was necessary to help them break even. And I would move that we approve the athletic committee's recommendation.
Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Mr. Stamps. Discussion. Mr. Gregory?
No comments. He did a good job.
Very good. I just saw your light on and thought you had a burning desire to make a contribution there, but Mr. Wheeler?
I'm highly in favor of this. Is there a policy against allowing the individual schools to set their own ticket prices?
Policy dictates that to the athletic committee, which brings it to the board for approval. Yes, sir.
Is that a good idea or not? Let individual schools set their own ticket prices.
You would have a variety of prices across the county.
So what?
Well, you've got Hendersonville going to Gallatin or going to Beach or reverse or wherever and charging 3 here and 5 there. Then you're going to have a lot of people taking up tickets going to get killed.
Makes sense to me.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir,
On the
Mr.
same
Brown.
On this same subject, this gatekeeper fee, I noticed it floating through the book somewhere back, Gallatin, there's one guy down there that received $2,500 for gate receipt, keeping one night, and you get to Westport, and you some of them do it for nothing, maybe 20, 50 bucks, whatever. Is there any way we can but examine that gatekeeper's fee to where we have some system of regularity and fairness across the county, or do we have to go back to each individual school and let them do it on their own?
Like ticket prices, that sounds like an issue that should be addressed by the athletic committee.
Have you noticed that, and is that
You
been a
have
question with anybody? It's been brought to my attention that, look, why do some do it for nothing and others get 50 bucks or 25, and in some other areas they get a flat fee a year or whatever?
it comes out of the gate receipts of that school, and that's left individual direction of the principal of that school. But that individual would be taking up tickets or supervising or doing whatever for basically every ball game that exists at that school. And
I noticed in football, we play the same number of games that Gallatin does, but there's a whole lot of different floating cost of gatekeeping.
let me check into it further, sir, and find out exactly what's involved there. But it could be 30 ball games, and that one individual works 30 ball games.
Let me ask one more question. Do these ticket, be they in gymnasiums or wherever they are, have we got security cameras on those folks? The reason I just concluded a personnel case up in Cobb County where unfortunately a longtime ticket salesman and teacher was putting $3 in the box and $2 in his pocket. And he got prosecuted for that as well as fired. So
He should have been. There aren't cameras there, but each ticket person, they have to reconcile their tickets every night before they go home, and then the bookkeeper has to make sure that they balance the next day. So there's a number of the ticket. There's a number that's torn off, and it's got to match with those dollars collected. If there's a shortfall of money, and we did have a couple of instances several years ago in two different schools where that was caught by another teacher supervising who had to balance those reconciliation statements. So there's an accounting measure, but there aren't any cameras.
Mr. Bills, you feel comfortable reviewing that issue Mr. Brown brought up yourself, or would you like the athletic committee to take a look at it?
I'll find out and make a report.
Very good. Okay, any other discussion? We ready to vote? All in favor of the motion of the chairman of the athletic committee, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Chairman? Okay, thank you. I call your attention to page 57 of your packet, the executive committee report. If there are no questions or comments, we'll move on. Okay, item D, update on board retreat dates and times. I think all of you are aware of the fact that we'll be meeting on July 27th, the afternoon and evening of July 27th, and the morning of July 28th at the Inn at Evans Mill. The meeting will start at 4 o'clock on the 27th. That's a very nice facility. The executive director of the TSBA will moderate the session. I hope all of you have already completed and returned to her the survey that she sent that she will use to establish the agenda for the meeting. The cost will be approximately $125 for each one of us. That includes all the meals and the accommodation for that evening. Are there any questions? 4 o'clock on the afternoon of the 27th, you'll be getting additional information on directions how to get to Evans Mill. Mr. Long?
I was just gonna ask, what time Saturday are we wrapping up?
Noon. Anything else? Very good. Okay. Say again, Mr. Duncan? Smithville, yeah. You'll be getting directions on how to get to the inn. All right, next, comments from the director. Mr. Bills?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one moment of update. By this time, the official meeting of next month, school will already be in session. We're really getting geared up now. People are getting nervous. Principals are coming back in off vacation. Teachers are winding up their vacation. And last minute hire, resignations, transfers out and in. So we're getting prepared for that. Books are being delivered this week, math books, et cetera, to the schools. So inventories will be going on and schedules are made. So we're getting excited, a little nervous, but excited at the same time. So it's rapidly closing, and Thursday week, the year-round school will open. So we're almost there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bills. I was just looking at three of our superlative administrators, and they're disguising their nervousness very well. Looks like they're very prepared for this next school session. Next, the approved field trip. I called your attention on page 97. Without question, we'll move on to the next item, and that is unfinished business.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Brown.
just on the field trips, I still have a feeling, you've just noticed on the news have been big bus wrecks where people were injured and, bad things have happened. And hopefully we're covered, or doing the best we can on these forums where we ask the parents and the guidance counselors to sign those waivers and help all we can on those, because I'm fearful on that point greatly now with all the moving around and trips that we go on, or they go on.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Yes, sir, Mr. Doremus.
that is a point of emphasis that will be discussed at our opening principals meeting coming up on the 3rd of August. So that is on the agenda for that. We will reemphasize that and go over that with the principals.
Thank you, Mr. Doremus. Next, unfinished business, the Continuing Growth Building Program update. Available to us for board information. I presume all of you have had an opportunity to review that. Are there any questions? Mr. Long?
Yes, if I could, Mr. Bills, if you wouldn't mind checking on this for us. I noticed on the architect field report, showing field report number 11 dated June 13, item number 7 down there, they're talking about grass that started growing on the play area over at Knox Dawes Middle School. We apparently need some extra water. We could just have somebody keep an eye on that. I know the small play area that was created over behind the school, I suspect that's what they're talking about, where we put a little bit of fill material and some grass. Just somebody keep an eye on that. I'd hate for them to have gone to trouble with seeding and fertilizing and all that, and then due to lack of water, that grass die. And then also had a question on that same, or on field report number 12, item number 9. It appears that the civil engineer, Mr. DeWall, is talking about an abundance of material, cut material from this grading, and that they may be moving the bus parking site a little bit. Is that what's included in this drawing that we're going to look at when we consider the bus parking here a little bit later in the agenda? I guess it's 2 items down. You know?
I do not know, no, sir.
Okay. If you would, just have somebody check on that watering deal. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments about the architect's field reports? All right, we'll move on to item number 2 under unfinished business, consideration of architect's fees for phase 1 of the Continuing Growth Building Program. It's a formality. The County Commission's already approved the fees that were negotiated by Mr. Bills and Mr. Long. And so I would entertain a motion to also approve those fees. Motion by Mr. Long, seconded by Mr. Duncan. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Very good. I think we would be remiss if we didn't thank the Architectural Selection Committee once again for their stellar work on that process. Thank each one of you for the contribution you made. The outcome was terrific, resulting in a unanimous approval of the County Commission. All right. Next, item B, discussion and/or action concerning bus parking facility at Station Camp. There are at least a couple of people in our audience tonight that have a keen interest in this. Call your attention to the material starting on page 121 on this subject. We've had conversations about it before. I'm anxious to hear what my fellow board members think about this issue. Mr. Long, you want to start the conversation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know in the, looks like on page 121, the memo from Tim Williams to Mr. Bills, he breaks down the prices that were provided by DeWall and Associates of probable cost to construct that bus parking facility behind Knox Dawes. It's an area large enough to park 65 to 70 buses, and he has a fee there. He has an additional fee as an alternate to provide asphalt topping, wheel stops, and the striping, that sort of thing. I guess a couple of questions I have. I would certainly be in favor if we can find the funds to pave that. I've been over to the bus maintenance facility, and I've seen what a large gravel area with 70 buses on it winds up looking like. And one of my concerns is if there's no asphalt to put down, that when you start tracking all that gravel out onto the paved area, which is the bus pickup for Knox Doss, you're gonna have a breakdown of that asphalt. It's just invariable. That's why, municipalities try and keep streets as clean as they can for that reason. So I would be in favor of that. It also talks about in the proposal to, have security fencing placed around the bus parking area. And I guess I would like to know a little bit of detail about that. Are we talking about a chain link fence with razor wire on top of it? Or is it simply a fence, or?
It's a chain link with the razor wire.
And then if you turn back to page 124, this appears to be at least the beginning of a layout. It's actually a topographic survey, but has a layout dropped in on top of it for the bus parking area. It looks like someone has hand-drawn an access road over to the back area that runs behind the soccer field for Station Camp, as well as behind the football field, I'm assuming to connect back down to lower Station Camp Creek. And the only concern I would have with that is the county is moving forward with closing lower Station Camp Creek to vehicular traffic, and that's going to become a greenway pedestrian way. So I'm not real sure we want to have any type of vehicular traffic access down that way. The other thing that I'm concerned about is a lack of screening shown on this plan. I don't see, obviously it doesn't contain any proposed grading, but before we approve that, finally, I would like to see at least a proposed grading and or landscape plan of some fashion that would show either bermed screening to screen from the soccer field and football field at Station Camp, or some type of white pines or some type of landscape screening to screen that area, included on Mr. DeWall's plan. I don't know if this is something we have to vote on tonight, if we're in some kind of a time critical, or they're still just supplying fill material over there. But
This would be, I would love for it to be voted on with the additions that you're talking about there in the site plan and et cetera, with the trees, et cetera. And the reason why we gave this handout to the education, to the budget committee this past month, just for their information, and because we had not taken any action on that. But as we look to the building of the gym at Merrill Hyde Magnet, we're going to need to move on this in order to get the buses out of that area so we can have space for parking and for the gym. We don't know exactly where the building will be, the gym itself will be located, in what area, all that will be done. But if we could get it okay from the board on this to begin preliminary discussions with the Education and Budget Committee and Commission to get funding for this, it'd certainly be in order.
in that case, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to move that we approve this bus parking area with the inclusion of that bus parking area to be paved. In the probable cost estimate that Mr. DeWall has prepared, he does show screening, landscape screening, pine trees, what he calls it, about 50 of them. So that's included in that price. There's no additional price for that. And it's showing barbed wire at the top, not the razor wire, which I would prefer to see as barbed wire rather than the razor wire. But I'd like to make a motion that we approve that, including the alternate item shown, I'm looking on page 123, to include that, which also includes striping and wheel stops and that sort of thing.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve the bus parking facility at Station Camp. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Stamps. Further discussion?
Have we got the money for this?
That's a good question, Mr. Wheeler.
We have some money in our budget if the budget is approved tonight, but not enough to do all that we need to do. So we would need to request from the county commission for additional funding for this project.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gregory.
I went on a tour with Mr. Rigsby a few days ago. There are a few rocks down there. And what would I assume the cost of this $256,800, that does, include the moving of these rocks?
That'd be, I don't know who's gonna answer that
I
question
don't know which
tonight.
rocks you're talking about. Whatever's in place, they are gonna finish whatever needs to be done.
I'm
But
talking about the pile of them about the size of this building,
where are they located?
where the bus parking lot is supposed to be, or excuse me, right next to it.
Whatever needs to be done, the business company will take care of it, but but as far as the field itself, everything basically is in place for the site itself. I'm not sure what rocks,
If I,
A bunch of them.
I know.
if I
Mr.
can-
Long?
If I can, Mr. Chairman, as I understand it, the comment on the architect field report, what Mr. DeWall was saying, and that, one of the items I pointed out was, they do have some excess fill material that's back there. He's thinking that can still be pushed out to, move the bus parking a little bit further away from the apartment complex that's under construction next to Knox Dawes. So all that material you're seeing on site will be utilized to position that bus parking. It's my understanding they're supposed to, obviously use that as part of their fill material. We can't leave a mountain of rock out there because the way the thing's situated, they're gonna clean up the, football practice field for the middle school for Knox Dawes right there and push all that back. So it's my understanding all that excess fill material you're seeing back there is gonna be utilized in the bus parking area.
I thought that also, and one of the reasons I brought this up is because if we had planned on, the school system had planned on using that land for any other reason and had to remove that, the expense of moving the rock would be far more than what the school bus parking area would be.
I'll check into it, but anyway, they've got to finish the project, and whatever needs to be done to make it look suitable, I'm sure they'll do.
Did you get the impression that rock was just gonna stay there?
No, I had the impression from Mr. Rigsby that they were gonna move them around on the campus there for the use of the parking lot. No, I did not have that impression. I had the impression if we was ever gonna use that maybe for anything else, they may have had to move them.
Okay.
So I think we're by far getting a better bargain by using this as a school bus parking lot than we would for any other purpose of the Sumner County school system.
Mr. Wheeler's, I think Mr. Wheeler's question about whether or not we had the money was very appropriate. I'd like to know a little bit more about how much money we do have and how much has been allocated potentially for this project and how much we'd be asking the county commission for at this point. If we could have that on the
Ms.
table for
Dursky.
consideration, I'd like.
Mr. Chairman. On the same subject, one final subject, a question here on this subject.
Yes,
Is
sir,
there
Mr. Brown.
Any cameras gonna be on this? You're putting in 71 to 100 buses down there, and you're gonna have security fence around it. Look like 18-foot and 30-foot sliding gates and all that. Any cameras gonna be on this project, or will there be any on-duty people that watches this stuff down there?
I don't see any reference to that in here, Mr. Brown. Perhaps Mr. Bills
there be
can
a
talk to us about security.
Will there be a building down there where they check in and out, or somebody to help oversee some of that stuff? You're putting a lot of eggs in one basket, I'm thinking.
There will not be any cameras. There will not be any security people. The bus drivers who come in late from the ball game will open the gate or close the gate. It'll be locked. There'll be the fence, and police station will be close by, patrol. But other than that, it's not any different than been parking in where they park now. Same thing where they park behind Mrs. Schreiner's school down there.
Yeah, I'm familiar with gate closing and shutting. I've been doing a little special project on that, and about half the security gates we have are left open all the time. But no disrespect to anybody, it's just a thing that we need to take a look at. We're living in a time, as you know, of terrible things happen in security and all this. I was up at North Sumner today, in a little beautiful building up there on the hills, and the building, the roofing project will soon be done, hopefully. But it's sitting up there all alone, no fence around it, no security gates, nothing. Got kids up there I'm concerned about it. those outlying areas, Bethpage, North Sumner. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it's an appropriate comment, Mr. Brown. Those buses cost a lot of money, and we're gonna have a lot of them up there. Mr. Bill just commented that we'll have the same security measures at this facility as we have at the magnet school right now. We had any problems up to this point?
Every now and then you have vandalism. If it's at the Walmart parking lot, Kroger parking lot, Merrill Hyde parking lot, vandalism happens. Can we ever protect it? I don't know, but it's a concern, and appreciate your thoughts, sir.
Ball field, and since that time, we hadn't had one single break-in. And you can drive through there, and if the gates are closed, and when that plant's not in operation, it needs to be shut down, folks. I don't think you need to be driving through there at night and just, you know, but that's what I see at North Sumner and Westmore and the grade schools and all that. But there's other places the same way, I'm sure. Sorry, sir, go ahead.
No, good point, Mr. Brown. I'm glad you brought that up. Ms. Dursky, you were going to talk to us about the financial aspects of this issue.
The draft budget that you have before you tonight includes $150,000 designated towards this bus parking lot project. That would leave us approximately $100,000 short, for which we would approach the county commission.
This is on the agenda now, and the budget is on the agenda last. So we don't know exactly at this point whether there would be an opportunity to find the additional. Frankly, I'd rather not go to the county commission and ask for additional funding at this point if we don't have to. But if we have to, obviously, if we pass this motion and it stands as it's on the agenda right now, then that's what we would do. Is there any opportunity to fund this without asking for an additional $100,000 at this point from the county commission?
Should we receive additional funds during fiscal year 07-08 from the state, potentially through growth funds, the board would have the opportunity to amend the budget to designate $100,000 of any additional funds received toward that project. We won't have numbers on that probably until January or February. But that would be a board decision, or the board could look at the budget tonight and make changes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Long.
Ms. Dursky, would this not be considered just a capital project improvement? That if the additional $100,000 could be taken from capital projects, and then at the end of the year, if we wind up running short in that particular line item, we could take additional funds or some of the rollover money we have to compensate for that shortcoming in that particular line item.
Yes, if there were funds available in one line item, they could be transferred through board action to the capital outlay line.
So we could move forward at this point, and then at the end of this fiscal year, if we wind up short because of this particular item, we could either look at changing, moving some money around in our budget, or going to the county commission at that time.
That would presume that there would be excess money in some line, which we don't know at this time. We don't budget to have
Right, I
excessive
understand.
amounts of money left at the end of the year.
But we have in the past had money left over.
It can happen that way, yes.
I don't believe the motion addresses the issue of funding at this point. We can approve this project, I presume, without binding us to go to the county commission at this point. I'd like to do that if that's the collective reasoning of the board. What do you think, Mr. Wheeler?
What's the recommendation of the director?
With $150,000, we can probably get on the campus. But to do all the things that we need to do as far as all the other provisions, obviously we do not have that. To wait, and we can wait until we see if we have funds available at the end of the year. But we probably would be without some of the things that we can't provide. It's the direction of this board is whether we request those funds or not. Out of the monies that were saved from the bond issue, they have given us permission to use money for the Nannerbury extension and a couple other projects on that, and that's where that request would be sent to. And because that money can only be used for school projects, nothing else. And I have no hesitancy about asking for monies for that because, one, it provides a wonderful place to park our buses, and it provides area that's close-knit from all areas of transportation. So I don't have any problem with that, but that's simply the direction of the board for me to follow.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Dreamus.
I would point out that what we're dealing with tonight are cost estimates, and as we put this out for bid and get firm cost figures, the board will have a chance to revisit that aspect of it before we actually begin work. So if you authorize us to go ahead and take bids on this project and we look at it through a system of alternates and things like that, the way we do our building projects, we can look at the money issue at that time and get a definitive answer on the funding aspect of it.
Second the motion if it hasn't been seconded.
Okay, I will add, as I recall, Mr. Bills, when this was discussed at both budget and education, at both meetings, they asked, where's the money gonna come from? And, you're right, that we got a $5 million premium on that bond issue. And that would seem to be a ready-made, fund for something like this. But if there's any way we can come up with the money to fund this ourselves without going back and asking for $100,000 from the county commission, I'd like to do it. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there further discussion? We ready to vote? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay. New business. Consideration of the LEA comprehensive application for special education services for 2007-2008, with the Director of Schools authorized to file any necessary budget revisions, addenda, or transfer requests. Refer you to page 125. The Director does recommend approval. Could you give us a briefing on this issue, Mr. Bills?
This is just our annual application to the state that shows the number of kids we anticipate that we'll serve and how we're going to spend the money that's in the budget.
I take it from the way you described that, Louise, this is routine?
Right, this is something we do every year at this time, and it just
Okay.
requires that you review it.
Very good. Motion by Mr. Stamps that we approve and a second by Mr. Long. Is there further discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Consideration of North Sumner roof bids. The Director recommends approval. Call your attention to page 146. Mr. Bills, we don't usually approve roof bids, do we? We always approve roof bids. I thought the roof committee did that. We send it on to the roof committee. Okay. We haven't had many roof issues lately. That roof committee must be doing a heck of a job.
Who's the roof committee?
Well, Mr. Bills is on the roof committee. Ms. Dursky's on the roof committee.
Dursky,
What does she know about roofs?
the
I just do
funding
the
part,
money.
the money
Oh.
part. Mr. Hank Thompson, Mr. Paul Decker,
Tim Williams,
Tim Williams,
Kurt Moser.
Kirk Mosher.
Well, we know that the Director recommends approval of this North Sumner roof bid. Which let me look over here at page 146 myself. Is there a particular bid that should be?
It's $249,600. Superior
Okay.
siding and steel,
Very
includes
good.
alternate work.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I think Ms. Bradley will beat you to it, Mr. Brown,
It's
but you
okay.
can
I was
second
there
that
today, and
motion.
It's almost falling in, so we need to get on the program, yeah.
Ms. Bradley made that motion, and Mr. Brown seconded. Is there further discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Opposed, no, I mean. All right, that motion also passed. Consideration of Station Camp High School request to build a JROTC obstacle course. Again, the director recommends approval. Any comments, Mr. Bills, on that issue?
Certainly needed. It's in training for those young men and ladies that are part of the program, and it's an excellent test for them.
A motion by Mr. Stamps that we approve. Is there a second? Ms. Roth seconded before you, Mr. Long. He was first, huh? Okay, Mr. Long, then I'll accept your second. By the way, I might mention that Hendersonville High School has an obstacle course for their JROTC program, so it's only fitting and proper that Station Camp have a similar one. We ready to vote? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, consideration of request for utility easement at Indian Lake Elementary. Director recommends approval. Any comments, Counselor?
One comment, I would suggest we just line out the words, "We will forever warrant and defend the title hereto against the lawful claims of all persons whomsoever." We're virtually giving it to them, so giving them warranties doesn't say that we'll defend the title. It's very close to being in the road right away, and if they ended up with some squabble with Hendersonville, I'd hate for us to get pulled into it through that warranty. It would be more like a quitclaim deed without that warranty. It's 23 feet long, 10 feet wide. It's my understanding that it's underground and it serves an electric pump for irrigation and also perhaps for lighting near their entrance. But their concern right now is the pump for irrigation.
So you're suggesting that the motion, if there were one to approve this, would include that modification of the instrument that's included in our packet?
Yes, the chance of getting in a squabble over this is very slight, but they're not paying us whole lot anything for it to speak of anyway, so why give them a bunch of warranties when, we're giving them the property too?
With the director's recommend, Mr. Wheeler?
Does this have any value at all?
I don't think so. It looks like to me it's in the road right away.
Well, with regard to us granting easements, we're the protector of the public's money with regard to what we spend. We are also protectors of the public monies with regard to what we charge. And we need to be selective, I think, in giving away easements. Now, there's all 1,000 considerations about when you should and when you shouldn't. But that's why I asked the question. You say 23 feet long, 10 feet wide. That doesn't sound like much. But, this sort of thing usually has a value, but if it's minuscule, then...
Not only that, there's another deed that up the road a little bit that has some errors in it, and they're trying to straighten that out for us, that where they're working to help us straighten out another matter. So certainly, I think we ought to help them straighten out this one.
These two developers are responsible for that very large development behind Indian Lake School, and I think they would be amenable to making, what's the word I'm looking for here? Helping the faculty and PTO at Indian Lake with things that come up from time to time. They'll be constructing that subdivision for many, many years to come. So I think we'll find that they'll be very receptive to helping the folks here at Indian Lake. Is there a motion to approve based on the modification suggested by council? Mr. Wheeler makes the motion. Is there a second? Mr. Gregory seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, item E, consideration of request for sewer easement at Station Camp High School. Again, the director recommends approval. Any comments here, council? Okay.
How much are we being paid for this?
$2,500 for this.
Is that a compromise?
That is a compromise.
That's what it looked like.
It's my understanding that this serves one development up behind there, behind the school, and we thought the developer would be paying it, so we sent a demand for $5,000, thinking that the developer would pay it. The utility district's representative called me and said, no, the utility district would be the one paying it. And, but at any rate, they've gotten an appraisal, and by their estimate, they're paying about double what their appraisal was. So, all in all, getting in a disagreement with the utility district doesn't seem to be anything we ought to do.
Move approval.
Motion by Mr. Wheeler, seconded by Mr. Stamps. Further discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next item, consideration of the 2007-2008 bids for school nutrition program. Mr. Bills, the recommendation was to be made at the meeting tonight. What is your recommendation?
You'll find that packet on your desk, Mr. Chairman, and the director recommends approval as submitted.
All the information's included there from the vendors, et cetera. This is just getting ready for school. Bids are in.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion then with that recommendation
So moved.
to approve. That motion is made by Mr. Gregory and seconded by Mr. Duncan. Further discussion?
What are we approving? Which amounts? On page 26.
In Exhibit 26, each page is a different product that's been bid for that department. First page, food and non-food projects for all cafeterias. You see the bid recommended is from institutional wholesale, et cetera, and we go through that on each page for a different product or a different service.
For instance, on the second page, Goldenrod Dairy, at that amount, the next line down, and then the other bidders were. Okay.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Wheeler? Further discussion?
All of these are low bids that we're recommending, Mr. Chairman.
Are we changing dairy companies this year?
I can't answer that, Mr. Gregory.
I just know Ms. Becker, when she met with us, discussed about how much milk products had increased, so
I think the same as last.
I think there's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there further discussion? And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. All right. Down to item G, consideration of the 2007-2008 General Purpose School Fund Budget. I'm confident all of you read with great deal of enthusiasm the communication from Ms. Dursky dated Thursday, July 12th, indicating that manna fell on Sumner County from the state of Tennessee to the tune of $1.4 million. Ms. Dursky, I'm sure, will elaborate, but I appreciated very much the suggestions that she made in that email. And for those of you who don't have a copy of that email in front of you, I'd like to just highlight number one. She said, we could balance the budget for 2007, 2008. Number two, she said if the board wishes to reconsider its earlier action, we would not need to request that 2 cents of the property tax be reallocated. Number three, previously eliminated positions and expenditures may be restored to the budget. Number four, fund an additional increase to teachers' salaries, 5% for all certified employees. And finally, funds may be set aside to assist with the startup of the new Station Camp Elementary School, particularly in the areas of library materials and technology. We have an additional handout. I presume, even though Ms. Wheeler handed this out, that Ms. Dursky is going to give us the briefing on this material. Is that a correct assumption, Ms. Dursky?
Yes, that would be correct.
Thank you.
The draft budget that was handed out is very similar to the budget that was mailed with your packet. The change is in the accounting for the fund balance that we are going to begin fiscal year 07-08 with. It's an accounting change that the state requires me to make. It does not affect the total. It does not affect any of the statements that I made in my email to you. But it is an accounting change that I wanted to get into the budget so that you would approve it with the correct format of the fund balance from the beginning of the year. The smaller handout, the 3 pages that, or actually it's a 4-page handout, is a summary of the additions to the budget. This is very similar to a sheet that I handed to you actually 3 months ago tonight, April 17th. It speaks to the positions that are added to the budget, and it speaks to some of the other major additions in the areas of textbooks and other fees. I apologize, I need 1 second. Do you have another one? I think the wrong one. Yeah. Too many copies of the same document. As Mr. Fussell mentioned, the budget that you have in front of you is balanced. It meets the maintenance of effort test on the local level. It meets the fund balance test, and it meets the BEP 2.0 accountability test. That speaks to the expenditure of the additional funds we received due to the changes made in the BEP formula. The budget includes many of the items that were requested during all of the various budget meetings that we had going back to last January, both at the school level and the department level. It adds a number of positions, both certified and classified, to the schools and to the central office, all of which the professional staff and Mr. Bills recommend with great pleasure to this board. We feel that all of these improvements will benefit the students directly and really do a lot to move the school system forward. As I said in my email, the fund balance is sufficient to allow us, if the board directs, to go back to the negotiation table and to negotiate with the teachers an additional increase that would give all of our teachers a minimum of a 5% increase, and that is a 5% increase, state funds, local funds, and the STEP for those who receive a STEP. We would, of course, need your direction to do that, and that item would have to be negotiated and ratified. It is our understanding in conversations we've had with SCEA that would not be a difficult task to achieve, that it could be done rather quickly if that is what the board so desires.
Might interject here, Mrs. Dursky, that we've received communication, telephones, and letters from SCEA in endorsement of this proposal. And Ms. Walker has spoken to this afternoon. And I can tell you from the report from different teachers and organizations or individuals that are out there, the thought of those people being able to get a raise who have reached the end of the ladder at 19 years and been teaching 25, etc., they're really excited. But also for every employee, classified and certificated employee, to get a 5%. We haven't been able to do that in many years. I don't know if we ever were able to do that. as looking, and you'll hear from Mr. Ott in a couple of weeks about his survey of other systems. We certainly need to make improvements to our teachers' salary schedule, as SE has pointed out for several years here. And this is the first step to doing that. And last week, of course, we did not know about this additional money. So when that phone call or that email came in last week, we didn't believe it. We had to check, and Ms. Dursky called 3 different people, a higher level echelon, every time to double check to find out if this was really true, because we could not believe it. No, it went higher than that, sir. And everything was a good report. So to be able to be in the position as a school board to recommend the 5%, to put in these positions that we're putting back in, assistant principals, librarian, guidance clerks, technicians, maintenance positions, vocational secretaries. We've never been able to do that in all these years, and buy textbooks in a long time, 3 years. So we're just delighted, and we certainly recommend that you vote to allow us to go back to the table with SCEA and give all of our teachers that raise that they so rightly deserve. And we'll talk about other items as we go along. So that's my recommendation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bills. Ms. Dursky?
Mr. Chairman, I would interrupt Ms. Dursky's presentation by moving now that we authorize Mr. Hasse and whoever else is on the negotiating team to go back to SCEA for that very purpose before we take up any other matter on the budget, and ask for approval of the 5% for those who have what I call topped out.
Mr. Gregory already seconded. People standing in line to second that motion. I'm glad to see that. Is there yes?
If I might ask for some clarification, I have 2 questions regarding the 5% issue that have been raised by a number of people, and I think we need to get clarification. The first is, it is not only the teachers who have maximum years of experience who would not receive a 5% increase. When we looked at this in detail following the last board meeting, it came to our attention that at years 2, 3, and 16, 17, 18, 19, and 19 plus, all were just under the 5%. And so the question is, do we adjust all of those, or do you wish to adjust all of those, or only those with maximum experience? My calculation, of the $480,000 that this will cost, included all of the teachers who had not received a 5%.
I move to include everybody, as she mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler, and I'm sure that will satisfy you too, Mr. Gregory, as far as your second is concerned.
I have one other, that was the first question. I appreciate the clarification. Secondly, is this meant to become a permanent part of the salary schedule, or is this meant to be a one-time payout to equalize the raises?
I have a question. How does that jive with the EPNA?
It would have to be negotiated,
It has to be negotiated annually anyway, doesn't it?
Well, salary is negotiated, well, it can't be negotiated annually, or we can't negotiate an agreement for up to 3 years. The question is, if this becomes part of the salary schedule, then that salary schedule, including this extra amount for those years of service, would become our starting point for future negotiations.
That was my recommendation, sir, that would be a permanent salary in our schedule.
I appreciate that, Mr. Bills. How many years are we going to get $20 million of new revenue? I hesitate to commit, especially since we haven't heard from Mr. Ott yet about what his analysis is going to reveal, and we've got a year. We got such an antiquated compensation package. Ms. Dursky, give us those rundown of those years again. Not just those teachers who are beyond the step, but also teachers in years
2, 3, 16, 17, 18, and 19. And actually what we're asking is really direction for the negotiating team. We are not able to decide at this moment by action of the board how this will go into the salary scale, but what I'm looking for on behalf of the negotiating team is your direction for where we're going with this. Do you intend for it to become permanent, or would it be a one-time payout of, maybe, in some cases it's $35, in some cases it's $110?
Isn't it true, if we make it permanent, that it's a no harm, no foul situation anyway, because it's always subject to funding?
That is correct.
Well, first of all, we've got a motion on the floor, and in order to vote on that motion to include the clarification that Ms. Dursky just asked for, the motion would have to be amended. I would caution at this point. I'm definitely, as all of you will recall, I put this on the table last week. Felt like it was very important, but I was considering this for this year. I was not suggesting, without further qualification and study, that we make this permanent. I think we would be remiss if we did that at this point with no more deliberation than we've had. So, Mr. Wheeler, I would before you. I don't know if you're considering amending.
I do not.
Okay, good. All right. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there further discussion?
I just have one comment. I mean, if we give these people this percentage, which increases their salary from whatever the range was, 35 to 110, that's permanent. I mean, next year, we're not going to come back and go, well, I know we gave it to you last year, but we're going to take that back. Whatever percentage increase that's negotiated by SCEA next year is going to be on top of what we're voting to give them right now. I guess I agree with Mr. Wheeler that, all negotiations are subject to funding. We have the money we know to do that this year. I'd like to, go ahead. I don't see any problem with making it permanent, and then if we get into a situation next year or years thereafter where the funds aren't available, we simply renegotiate at that time. I think SCEA would be understanding to that, and I feel certain that the board would be too.
This is our opportunity as a board to provide a salary, upgrade our salary schedule for almost 2,000 employees who was or who have left. And the word has been we're losing teachers because they're going to some other system. We have an opportunity tonight to try to play catch up with other systems. Let's do not let this opportunity pass us by. Make it a permanent thing to the salary schedule. Every year, whenever we negotiate, they understand they were willing to take a 1%. Now we're going to 5%. We'll see what happens next year. Additional money is going to be coming in next year. We'll see at that time. But to not give them an opportunity to have a salary schedule that is certainly much better than it's ever been would be remiss on our part, in my opinion.
Well, we do have a motion on the floor at this point, and just a point of clarification. We're not talking about taking this away next year. As Mr. Long described, a 5% raise this year, and then raises negotiated next year will be on top of that, correct? Without any action on our part at this point, other than approving the motion that Mr. Wheeler made.
For the security of our teachers, knowing that this is a permanent part of our salary schedule, they do not have to worry about money being taken away next year or not funded next year. They deserve that type of security to plan their budgets annually from now on, as long as they teach.
Well, I tell you what I'd like to do with Mr. Wheeler's approval, since he made the motion. I'd like to go ahead and vote on this motion, and then let's take this issue up separately rather than hold up the vote, because everyone agrees with this vote at this point. The only thing that is in question is this additional clarification that you've asked for. So we do have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Is there further discussion on the motion?
I just want to clarify, Mr. Chairman, the motion consists of instructions for the board's negotiating team. What is negotiated at the table would then be brought back to the board for final ratification. So that's what we're considering are instructions for your team, not final approval at this point. That still has to be hashed out at the table, and then that agreement, whatever it is, will be brought back to this body for consideration.
I doubt very much there'll be much hashing out on this issue, but thank you for that clarification, Mr. Dreamus. That was in order. Is there further discussion? We ready to vote? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. I think I can safely say that was a unanimous vote. Now let's address this issue one more time for clarification. What is the distinction that is made between the motion that Mr. Wheeler made and this term permanent that you brought up, Ms. Dursky? Give us a full and complete explanation of that so all of us can understand without any doubt.
Let me use an example. A teacher with a master's degree and maximum years of experience. It would take an additional $645 to give that person a 5% increase. The question is, does that $645 get paid to that person in a separate payment as a one-time payment so that on an annualized basis, that's a 5% increase? Or does that $645 get added into the other state and local money in our salary schedule and become a permanent part of the salary schedule, increasing the total salary for that degree and step by an additional $645? If it's part of the scale, that then becomes our beginning point for next year's negotiations. If it is paid in a separate one-time check, then the salary where we begin to negotiate for next year is $645 less.
Was it anybody's intent that this be a one-time check? I don't think it was. So now I think it's a distinction that we can all understand, and I would entertain a motion to make this permanent.
I have a question.
You have a question? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that this raise be a permanent part of the budget.
Motion made by Ms. Roth. Is there a second? Mr. Harris, second. Is there further discussion, Mr. Wheeler?
Which do the teachers prefer?
Well, I guess what we're looking for is your direction to your team. We'll take it to the table. My guess is permanent part of the
They're all
salary schedule.
smiling.
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard enough.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to make this permanent. Further discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Again, unanimous. All right, let's get back to the discussion of the budget, Ms. Dursky. What else would you add in your briefing to what you've already told us?
There's really, I don't have a lot to add at this point. I'll be willing to take questions. I do want to point out that it does reinstate into the budget all of the maintenance positions that were requested by Mr. Bowman. I know that was a question at the last board meeting, that some of those were in doubt. All 6 of his maintenance workers are in the budget, as well as an additional office person and the appropriate vehicles and supplies for those employees.
I'm looking at page 3, Ms. Dursky, the total cost of $518,845. That's approximately just a little bit less than $100,000 more than the original document that you gave us. It's similar to this. Can you tell us what additional positions were added since the budget deliberations and the material you provided us earlier?
Yes, since the initial budget draft was presented in April, we have added back the director of the operations department. And that would be the difference on page 3, the salary and associated benefits.
That's the only position, okay. That was $70,000 salary and then benefits on top of that, okay. Couple of questions that I was asked by county commissioners. What did we do with the Gallatin High School paving issue? Has that been resolved, or is that part of this budget? Was it done earlier? Ms. Dursky, can you explain that? You deferring to Mr.
Yes,
Mills?
sir. It's just been on hold since last summer. It was not okayed. Again, what we would hope to do is that with the monies from the bond sale, request money for the schools prioritized for paving. Gallatin and Beach, and I believe one of the schools in Portland were the top 3 priorities at that time. But through the monies from the bond sale, we were going to ask for paving for that.
So the paving of the Gallatin High School parking lot is not included in this budget? Okay. What about the issue that Mr. Long raised regarding paving of the areas around the bus maintenance facility? Is that in this budget?
The bus parking at Station Camp?
No. At the bus maintenance facility that
Oh, at the
was
transportation
recently,
department, that's been taken care of.
that's been taken care of.
That
Okay.
purchase order has been issued.
Very good. So, the Gallatin High, has been, that parking lot has been a big issue. I watched proceedings at the county commission, ad nauseum. We can't handle that in this budget? What's the extent of that, the cost of that?
What was it, 240 or so?
240,000?
350, probably, maybe closer to 400,000 by now.
Last year. That was last year's bid, and we could have gotten it done at that time for that amount of money, which was a really good price. But no, we did not have that kind of money to be able to pave that school or Beach High School or school in Portland. There's nothing available for that.
Well, I know there's at least one county commissioner that's not going to be happy with that. You know, I don't know the sense of the county commission, but we risk the chance of going back to them with that line item, and they say no, and then we go another year without paving Gallatin High School's parking lot. I hate to do that.
Well,
I
Mr.
was one county commissioner that was very upset that we didn't pay 2 years ago. What was the money that we had discussed about the bond?
There is, early in the year, I don't recall,
We had discussed some bond money that was coming to the county that was supposed to be used for improvement, school improvements.
Ms. Jersey.
Yes, when the $100 million bond issue was refinanced earlier this calendar year, there was a premium received on the sale of approximately $5 million. That money has to be spent on school capital improvements. And so that money is at the county commission, subject to their appropriating it to us for whatever purpose we might request. We've already used $750,000 of it for 2 different projects, but the balance is still there.
What is the balance?
It was $5 million premium.
$4,250,000 remains.
I don't think any of us should labor under the assumption that they're sitting there with that money, waiting on us to bring them requests for appropriation, because I remember distinctly they talked about using that to reduce the bond indebtedness. So, again,
This is $300,000 or $400,000. I wouldn't be a bit bashful asking them for that.
not bashful about asking for it, but be best if we could come up with the money ourselves. I think all of us recognize that. Let me ask one quick question. I noticed that the reserve and/or fund balance on the document you gave us tonight is $200,000 more than that same figure in the document you gave us last week. Can you explain that to us? Is that unused funds from last year's budget, perhaps?
As we get closer to the final closing out of 06-07 financial records, we have a more accurate idea of the remaining fund balance, and that is the most accurate estimate I have.
Okay, so that's an additional $200,000 that came to light after your memo on the 12th of July. Is that a fair assessment? When you said we can balance the budget and enumerated all the things we can do?
I'd have to say it was around that time that we made that change. We look at that every day, so I'm hard pressed to tell you at what point in time we became aware of that.
Well, we got the budget document in your memo at the same time, so it just since we got a new budget document, that's $200,000 right there. So anyhow, there is some additional money, apparently, that was not allocated when you sent us that memo on the 12th. It would be great if we could use that 200,000 on one of these two issues we had tonight, where we're going back. For example, the facility, the bus facility, storage facility over at Station Camp. That was 100,000 right there. We could use that unallocated 200,000 towards that, and at least we wouldn't have to make two requests of them. Is that a fair assessment, Mr. Bills?
Well, again, it's fund reserve, and I'd rather buy textbooks than concrete. Again, the money that through that bond issue, I do not have any hesitancy whatsoever of asking them to provide money to pave those schools and pave the school bus garage. They cannot use that money for anything else except school projects. They can hold it in reserve, see how we do with all the building projects. That's great. But we're not talking about that large of amount of money that would put any school project that could not be handled, any overrun that should come in. And so I don't see why we don't ask for it since it's designated for school projects.
You made that clear. We all understand that. We do have 200,000
And some of us are in
unallocated.
favor of it.
Pardon?
Some of us are in favor of it.
And I'm certainly in favor of asking for anything we need. But if we've got 200,000 of unallocated funds, I'd like to use that before we ask for more money. Does that make sense? Mr. Bills?
Again, Mr. Harris wants to talk, sir.
Okay, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we approach the county with these projects that's just been listed: Gallatin High School Beach, Portland, the school bus, garage, and ask for these monies to do those projects. And I'll make that in a motion.
Second by several. Mr. Stamps, I'll give credit for the second. Mr. Long?
Just a point of clarification here. Ms. Dursky, I believe you said the purchase order had already been issued for paving behind the maintenance.
That's
The
the
bus
school
parking
bus
area.
Parking area is what the part of
You're
Mr.
talking about
Harris.
over at the Station Camp thing?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Bills. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I just want to add one more comment. If we've got money that's unallocated and we're asking for more money of the county commission without allocating the money that's already unused, I think we're subject to potential criticism.
But also,
Make that comment.
we're looking at a gasoline situation here, heating and oil, other areas of that could continue to increase our costs, and we would have to have a reserve fund to offset that. So I'd rather ask for something of payment on the front end rather than come back next spring and say we don't have enough fuel to run the system or enough heat to run the schools and be in that kind of dilemma. So fund reserve is almost like it's like your savings account is to be protected for those emergencies, and so that's still my recommendation, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bills, and I think it would be appropriate to comment at this point that this is a balanced budget, as we all know. So, okay. Ms. Dursky.
I would also like to add that before we were to appropriate money, further funds out of the fund balance, I would have to have the opportunity to rerun some of the state tests, because in order to make sure that there were sufficient funds remaining in the fund balance after we took out $200,000 or $300,000.
Thanks, Ms. Dursky. I believe, and I could be wrong, you can clarify this. You'd already run the test when you sent us that other budget document, and this 200,000 came after that, correct?
But increasing the expenditures affects it as well. We would have, it's not a dollar for dollar in and out formula.
I understand. There's a motion on the floor in a second. Further discussion?
Question, this bond money, clarify exactly what that was supposed to be used for. Did I understand for school projects? Is that capital outlay projects?
Yes.
Any other discussion? We ready to vote? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, any other questions of Ms. Dursky at this point? No other questions of Ms. Dursky on this $172 million budget?
I do have, go ahead. Well, I think I'm fixing to take the words out of your mouth. I have a question. We've been wrestling with this. We've got the money to foot the bill. Why don't we vote approval and go home? No?
I move that we approve it.
Who made that motion?
I did.
Mr. Duncan made that motion. Mr. Stamp seconds. Is there further discussion on this balanced budget that covers everything that all of us suggested that we need in this budget? All in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. That being, well, we have one other item, even though it's not on the agenda. What are we going to cover at the study session next week?
Mr. Chairman, we have two extensive items for that study session in addition to the ribbon cutting and probable tour of Gene Brown Elementary facilities. First of all will be Mr. Ott's report on the compensation comparison that the board directed staff to undertake. Second will be a report from the maintenance department on its ability to undertake energy efficiency improvements at schools across the school district. So from staff perspective, we believe that's a full agenda for the study session.
Mr. Chairman, if I may request Mr. Doremus, if you would do me a favor and possibly other members of this board, next Tuesday, would you send out an email reminding us where to meet at Gene Brown so that I don't drive to Gallatin and wonder where everyone is?
Yes, sir. We'll take care
I would
of that.
appreciate that.
Did you ever think about getting a Palm Pilot or something of that nature?
One question to Ms. Dursky, please. How much startup money is in the budget for Station Camp Elementary?
We'd have to take a look at that. What we plan to use is some of growth funds as they come in later on in the year, and if there is any fund balance remaining, any of that is allowable, we would use towards that. But we don't know at this point.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, if we could take a break, Mayor Graves is on her way. She just left the building.
She did.
Not this building, City Hall. They had a long meeting. If we could take about a 10-minute break, then she'll be here to make her presentation. There's no voting on that part. She's going to make a request, then we'll go from there.
Very good, Mr. Bills. Let's take a 10-minute recess. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, the mayor is here. No need for us to go the full 10 minutes. Let's get back in place and hear Mayor Graves.
Y'all are fancier than we are. We don't have all this complicated electronics. Uh, We're just simple. Well, yeah, we keep it simple. Wanted to come to you all tonight and present a proposal to you. We would like, when I say we, the city of Gallatin would like to build a fire hall down in the Station Camp Creek area. I have talked to County Executive Hank Thompson about it, because not only do we want to build a fire hall, we want to build a bay to house an ambulance service. We also want to have a police presence down there. We have looked at property with the assistance of Mr. Bills. We've looked at property down there, and we have identified a site that is sitting on school property. We would build the fire hall and all the other bays that go with it. We would operate it. We would pay for it. We are simply trying to see if you as a school board would be willing to donate the property to the city of Gallatin, and we would maintain it. I have the fire chief here. He can answer any questions. And if additional information you want from us, we'll be glad to provide it to you. And with that, I'll just open the floor up to any questions you might want to ask.
Any questions of the fire chief or of the mayor? Mr. Long?
Mayor Graves, do you have a feel for how much property you're talking about? I think you're talking about that intersection of Bison Trail and Big Station, right there on the corner in front of Knox Dawes. Do you have any idea how much of that piece of land?
We are looking at approximately 2 acres.
Do we know how much land is down there? I mean, I know it's more than 2 acres.
No, it's 55 probably. I'm not sure.
I was just talking about on that front.
On that front, no, do not. What we would like, Mayor and Chief, if you would, to give us some type of preliminary plan, a plot, et cetera, as to where it would be located, how much acreage you're talking about, the facade to be color coordinated, matching the building of Knox Dawes that's right behind it, it would be behind it, all the amenities, landscaping, et cetera, that shrubbery, whatever would go in there, sidewalks, that we could see that the board could see, so before they could make any type of decision on this. And anything else that you could add to that from your planners would be great, so we'll have full information.
And we don't object to that, Mr. Bills. I just wanted to make sure that before we went to that expense, if we had some, preliminary plans drawn up, that at least the board was receptive to the idea. We'll be more than happy to present something if this is something that you believe you are interested in participating with the city of Gallatin with. I guess I'm looking for an intent.
I know of at least one school where we have a fire station in close proximity to the school, and that's Indian Lake School. It's been a real asset to us. I don't know, perhaps there are other schools with similar circumstances. Mr. Long, you have a comment?
Well, I just had one more comment for you, Mayor Graves. I have received some comments from people just in day-to-day conversation about that particular piece of land, and as you guys kind of look at that, I don't want you to expend a whole lot of money on preparing a sketch plan for us or anything like that, but I have heard a lot of comments wondering if that particular piece of land could be utilized for like a pocket park, if you will, as that area grows. I'm sure you know Gallatin, annexed it for good reason. That area is subject to a lot of growth in that area to create a little pocket park. As they look at planning this fire station, ambulance bay, police presence area down there, and I'm not saying it would have to be done necessarily when you build that facility, but perhaps in the future have some walking trail around behind it, or something just as an amenity to those. Perhaps it could be a joint effort either between the school board and the city, or I don't know what the details are, but just maybe keep that in mind in the background as you look at that plan.
I'd be happy to do that, Mr. Long. I just want to make sure we are talking about property that's actually on the school campus, going in, that driveway that goes in, that's where we're talking about the 2 acres. Right. So I'd be happy to incorporate that.
Yeah, if we could, Jim or somebody in your planning department, take a look at it. We just kind of keep that in the back of our mind as you build your deal, that sometime in the future, we could extend and maybe have a little park area over and behind it or something.
Gallatin is very much in support of pocket parks.
Yes, I know.
We think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I know.
I have a question. I can't visualize this. Will it block the view of the school?
No, we're not talking about a high-rise. No, we're talking about a one-story building sitting to the back. I have a little map which I can pass around if you'd like to see that, just kind of denoting on here. Or maybe, I don't know if you can see it from here. If you're coming down Big Station Camp Creek and you turn left on Bison Trail, the driveway going in is off here to the left. And as you turn left, it would be right there immediately on the left, on that front corner. That is the area that we are looking at.
Mr. Duncan?
I was just gonna make a motion that would allow them an opportunity to go ahead and draw up plans and, give them opportunity to build a fire station down there. As that area grows, the response time, in that area would be great instead of coming all the way out of Gallatin. Then it would be a plus to have the fire station, well, as the police precinct there to protection of the school also.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan, because that's the way we see it. We see it as an asset to that community. It is a growing community. We see an asset to the school system to have an ambulance right there, have a police presence, have a fire presence. We think it is a tremendous asset to the school system as well as that whole area.
Mr. Duncan, I'm not sure that a motion was necessary. I think all the mayor was looking for was our intent to encourage her to proceed so that we could have an opportunity to vote on this after due deliberation of the specifics. And I know of no one on this board that intends at this juncture to discourage this. It's a very positive thing. I'm sure Mr. Harris would agree with that 100%. Mayor Graves?
Yes, sir.
We didn't intend to vote on this issue tonight,
No.
obviously. Have you gotten the encouragement that you need to move forward?
I think it's positive. When is your next meeting?
Our next meeting is the third Tuesday of August.
Third Tuesday of August. We will have a preliminary sketch at that point in time, and we'll be back. And thank you very much for waiting for us. We appreciate that.
We wouldn't have waited for much anyone else, Mayor Graves.
I appreciate that very much, Mr. Fizel. Any other questions that I can answer? And if not,
Mr. Chairman, may I direct a question to you?
Sure, Mr. Harris.
By me being an employee of the city, am I allowed to vote on this, at which time we get a chance to vote on it, or do I declare a conflict, or?
I think you just declare a conflict and say that you'll vote your conscience. So I'll double check it before then.
All righty, thank you.
Any other questions or comments to the mayor and the chief? Very good.
thank you very much for your consideration.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. This meeting's adjourned.
Congratulations to the new chief and the new assistant chief, Tommy Dale. Mr. Crook, Chief Dale. Proud of you guys.